All right, there's the next episode of True Wrestling Fan Discussions, continuing our Saturday Night's Main Event review series. It's going to be Saturday Night's Main Event 30. I'm your host, Mike.
I'm Frank. Let's get into it. This is the first one on Fox, no
Yep.
more NBC.
Yeah.
And damn, do I miss NBC.
Yeah. It was on. If memory serves me correct, it was actually on earlier than the original Saturday Night's Main Event on NBC. I believe this was on. I could be wrong. I think it was on 9 p.m. because I think it was before the 10 o'clock news on Channel
Yeah,
5. Well, at
yeah, I
least
think
in New
so.
York, local New York City, it was Fox 5. I think I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was on earlier. Either way.
I think I remember watching because I watched this one live too. I remember
Yeah.
it was earlier than usual.
Yeah. They changed that up. They changed the logo. I wasn't crazy about the new logo.
Look 270s to me.
Yeah, I understood why they did because it's kind of like a rebranding now. It's on the Fox network, so they wanted to do a new look. But the original
2.0.
the original logo is iconic.
And the theme, everything just pumped you up to watch
Yeah,
this.
they had changed the music, they changed the intro. It just wasn't quite the same. But still, it was Saturday Night's Main Event. I don't know about you, but I was fired up to watch this as a kid.
Oh,
I
this one definitely.
Yeah, I remember them advertising it on Superstars of Wrestling, which was earlier in the day, on the same channel on Fox. And this is coming off the greatest Royal Rumble of all time, Royal Rumble 1992. So you got Undertaker and Flair versus Sid and Hogan. That was huge. So I just couldn't wait to watch this, man.
I don't know about you, but back then I knew where this was
Yeah, yeah,
going.
yeah, of course. But you still wanted to
Because
see it.
Sid's not a good actor when
No,
it comes to it,
you
but
still wanted to see it, but you knew we've seen this movie before with Hogan and his friends. Yeah.
and of course, Hogan using the Child's Play slogan, "My friend till the end."
Yeah.
Every time he said it, I'm like, "You got Chucky coming out with you?
Yeah,
The
not
hell is
quite.
this?" All right, here we go. January 27th, 1992. They aired this on February 8th, 1992, from Lubbock, Texas. Vince McMahon, Bobby the Brain Heenan doing the announcing on this one.
Bobby was great this night. Bobby was great. I mean, he's always great, but he was great I would love when he used to just go off on Hogan.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, man. We got to hear that between WWE and WCW, and even
hmm
into the NWO. We
Yep.
got to hear
Bobby was the
Bobby do this
best.
for
Bobby was the
years.
best. Yep.
Bobby, you the man. And this actually had a pretty decent card, with the
hmm
exception of one match.
Yeah, we'll get
But
to
the
it, but
other
yeah.
the other three were pretty good. We're gonna kick it off. It was for the Intercontinental
Yep.
Championship. Roddy Piper defending the title against the former champion, the Mountie.
Yeah, this is the Royal Rumble
And
rematch.
yep, and they announced that after tonight's winner would face Bret the Hitman Hart
Right.
at WrestleMania.
hmm
And they were talking about how the Mountie was literally a 2-day champion. And
Because he
I,
had well, for those that don't know the story,
yeah,
he had beaten Bret Hart prior to the Royal Rumble. Bret Hart had a fever, at least storyline wise, had a
yeah.
fever, went in there, and the Mountie he beat him. So he won the title. Then he loses to Piper. It was actually pretty cool. They had Bret Hart, like they showed him in an interview. They had the TV screen where
Yeah, they were asking him who he wanted to
and
face.
he was talking about how he's ready to get his title back and everything. That was during the match. They did this during the match. That was pretty
Hmm.
cool. I remember those promos mid match they used to do back in the day.
Yeah. He said he really wanted to face Piper, but he also had unfinished business with the
hmm
Mountie.
Yeah,
I'm glad we got what we got because that was one of the best intercontinental title matches
yeah, hands
of
down.
all time between those two. Like I've said this before. This was Piper came in. He was in his prime in these months from Survivor Series to
92.
WrestleMania. He never looked
Yeah,
better.
yeah.
The title looked great on him,
hmm
and we got one hell of a match at WrestleMania. This match wasn't too bad, although I was kind of wondering, and even back then I was wondering, as I was wondering now, why Piper's wrestling with
Yeah.
his shirt on.
They're like, yeah, Piper doesn't even have his taking his shirt off.
Yeah, that's not like him. And this was, I mean, a short match, three and a
Yeah,
half minutes,
but it was good for
and
what it was good for what it was.
mhm,
He
it
just
was.
Mountie started attacking him and everything.
Yeah, and what's funny, now we know why he's got the shirt on because
Mhm.
Jimmy Hart passes him the cattle prod.
Well, the
they got that.
referee, remember the referee gets knocked out first.
Yeah,
Jimmy Hart passes him the cup of water. You're thinking he's gonna use the cup of water to wake the
oh,
referee up,
referee,
but
yes.
no, he dumps it on Piper because then he's gonna shock him.
Yeah, and because even Vince was like, What is he doing? Why
Yeah.
is he putting the water on Piper?" And then he grabs the cattle prod to get an extra shock on it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you got to love that sound that they chime in there.
Yeah.
And so, just real quick, they did a lot of adding in sounds tonight, and I'll get to that in the next flashback. So he hits the Piper with it. Heenan's like, "That's it. Mounties going to be the two-time champion." No effect on Piper. He gets right up. He uses it on the Mountie, gets the pin. Then we find out he's wearing a shock-proof vest,
Mm-hmm.
which the crowd goes nuts. Heenan is going irate. Vince is enjoying it. Piper wins the match, so now we know that we got Roddy Piper
Mm-hmm.
versus Bret Hart at
Yep.
WrestleMania. And considering that the WrestleMania 8 card, what they had and what they gave us, I mean that thing kind of flipped tremendously. At least this was one of the original matches that signed and we actually got.
Mm-hmm.
So now following this match, they did a flashback to the Royal Rumble. And I don't know about you, but I love how they added in the booze when Hogan was eliminated.
Well, they changed. What they did was they kind of changed the volume. Like they put the background noise loud. I guess like louder than the commentary because it doesn't sound exactly like it sounded initially. And then they had Gorilla was go. I believe Gorilla did an overdub. I don't know if this is the overdub or the one on Coliseum Home Video. It says courtesy of Coliseum Home Video. This footage.
I think this was the overdub.
But you hear Gorilla like, "Oh, from behind, like a snake," or what? I'm paraphrasing. I forgot what he says. But they had to add that to make it look like Sid was bad. Sid was bad. Sid was bad.
Yeah.
Because for
Even
dumping
though
Hogan out.
we know that we're watching it, the fans cheered that
Yeah.
Hogan got eliminated.
Yeah. They cheered when Hogan got thrown out, and Sid wasn't in the wrong. It was every man for himself. He dumps out Hogan, and then Hogan's eliminated, and then he grabs him.
Hogan's just acting like a little bitch.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm going to call it what it is.
Pretty much. I mean, Hulkamania was still, a thing, but that was stupid. It was a heel move, but they showed what happened.
And then from there, they show you the press conference, which I remember watching this and I loved it. You have The Undertaker, you have Piper, Savage, Sid, and Hogan, all waiting for Jack Tunney to kiss Hogan's ass and give him the number one contendership. And honestly, as a character's perspective, Sid has a legitimate argument. And he mentioned it after the conference. He was the last man in there besides Flair.
Yeah,
he has a legitimate gripe to being the
number one
contender.
It's because he wasn't a big star like Hulk Hogan, like a big movie star like he said about Jack Tunney. He said you couldn't beat. What does he say? Sid says you couldn't beat me, or you couldn't beat
Flair on his best day. You couldn't beat me on my worst.
Yeah, you know what's funny? This is a side note. My friend Peter, he had beef with this kid Carlos on the block. I mean, pretty much everyone had beef with this kid Carlos. He was like a recurring villain in the story of the block that we grew.
We've all had one of those.
He would have a face turn, then he would have a heel turn. This went on for years. But I remember when Carlos's father confronts Peter because he knew there was beef between them, and he's telling him, maybe my son will win one and you'll win one. And Peter said, "Your son couldn't beat me on his best day." And he couldn't beat me on my worst day. I don't know if he got it from Sid, but it was hilarious. I was right there when he said it too. I was right there. It was gold. It was gold. He might have gotten it from Sid. I never asked him.
It was cool how Sid did this and what's funny is before all this, Jack Tunney he's drawing it out and he looks over and Sid automatically standing up.
Yeah.
And he says Hulk Hogan. You watch Savage getting all pissed off, and Hogan's all like yes, and Sid is just irate, and he goes and he tells paper, right? Yep, and he tells Jack Tunney this is the most bogus move you've ever made. Yeah. And so then, what's funny is all of a sudden, Sid has a coming to Jesus moment where all of a sudden he's like, oh, I was out of line. Hulk Hogan's the number one contender, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, bro.
I'm pretty sure it was on Superstars that morning, too. Mm-hmm. They aired that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, bro, you're not. If you're trying to sell this, it's not working.
We knew we knew it was to come.
And following this now that Sean Mooney interviews both Hogan and Sid, and they look to be on the same page. And this is where Hogan said that he's got, a little surprise out there.
Yeah, but did you notice Sid walks away?
As soon as soon as they started, he started talking to Hogan, he just looked and
Like,
went
what if
out, and
he
then
just
Hogan's just like, "Oh, my,
try to?
the big man's going
He's
out
on
to
his
the
way to ring,
ring."
try to cover up, but I got a big surprise, and you're thinking like, oh, what's his big surprise?
Big surprise to me would be bringing out the Ultimate Warrior.
Right, but who does he bring
He
out?
brings out Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Brutus the Barber Beefcake, and I'm like, okay, I was like, you have Sid with you. Why do you need Brutus the Barber Beefcake?
Yeah, exactly. And they're feeding you this stuff where
And
if
he
he
can't
gets hit,
fight.
his
He
face
gets
will
hit, his faces
explode.
explode. Yeah, so.
So whatever.
And at that point, you don't even know that, like, you don't even know that Brutus and Hogan are friends. Like, if you don't know the inner workings of the business, and I didn't even know they were friends.
There was no internet back then. We
So I was like,
really
why is he
did
bringing?
not know.
I was like, why is he bringing him out?
As far as we knew, Hogan had a storyline where he teamed with him 3 years prior at SummerSlam, and then
Well, that's true.
they did that feud, and then that
Yeah,
was
that's true.
it.
I didn't think about that. That is true. Yeah,
But you really didn't know that they were best friends coming up through the
yeah,
business together.
yeah.
So you've got Flair and Taker in the ring. Here comes Sid. Here comes Hogan with face off. And the match itself was pretty good. You know, they're
No,
debating who's
he's
going to
gonna go further.
start. You know, Sid tells the old man, get out of here. I got
Yeah,
this.
they started off, working well together, Hogan and
Yeah, and
Sid.
then Sid all of a sudden his expressions start changing at
Hmm.
ringside, and
Well,
Hogan, Hogan, go
because
ahead.
Hogan's celebrating. Yeah, Hogan starts celebrating, and then
Hmm.
Sid is just kind of like looking at him. You're like, uh-oh. And then I think Heenan says, "There's trouble. There's
Yep.
trouble."
And Sid, Hogan's getting his beat down, and Sid's checking out his manicure.
Right,
He's
right,
looking
right.
around. He turns his back at one point,
Hogan's
and
getting beat
then
up.
when Hogan finally went for the tag, Sid dropped down.
Well, the thing is that he just kind of doesn't tag him at first, and Hogan keeps getting beat up. He makes a comeback. He hulks up or whatever, right? And
Yeah,
then he goes for the tag, and he's like, "Oh, that's it."
and then all of a sudden, you see Sid, don't touch me, you witch.
I
Now he's
like,
starting to banter with the crowd, and then Brutus
yeah,
all of a sudden comes and turns him around,
yeah.
and then Vince is like, "No, no, don't do that." And Bobby's like, "It's going to be a face off."
I like how Bobby when he was trying to get the tag, Hogan was trying to get the tag. He's like, help me!
Help me!
The WWF
The
champion is
W keeps
moving my
kicking my
butt.
butt.
Yeah, yeah,
Help
help
me!
me! Oh man, Bobby was
It was
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah,
And this feud between with Flair and Taker against Hogan was just awesome.
yeah, no, it was good stuff. Hogan
And
eventually, he's able to like fight him off, right? I mean,
yeah, he hulks up after Sid walks out. He almost hits Brutus. He gets booed or whatever. He takes off. Eventually, Flair throws the referee. They get disqualified, and then they're beating down Hogan, and Hogan
then Brutus,
eventually.
well,
Yeah,
because Brutus
Brutus
comes
do.
in like he's gonna do
Yeah,
something, he doesn't do anything.
yeah, and I even think Bobby or Vince said, "What is he going to do?"
And then he
What is
like
he?
he ducks.
Yeah,
And then Hogan's fighting, and he's like cheering him on. He's throwing, he's like he's shadow boxing. Like it's weird. Like
and then
Brutus is shadow
he even
box.
looks at Brutus. What are you doing in here, brother?
Yeah. And then he's like
Let's just
the
put this
big.
out there. Brutus was cleared to wrestle. Okay,
Yeah, but I mean,
I mean
I don't mind the story. It
the
looks
whole face off thing.
it's cartoony, but I mean, it was fine.
The
But
best was the week after on Superstars with the barbershop
oh
with
yeah, that was
Sid when he tells him he's going to rearrange his face and he's got
mhm.
the powder all over his face.
Yeah, it
Now
explodes.
he's psycho.
Yeah, but he's Brutus brings up Sid as if like Hogan forgets about Sid, and then Brutus
Yeah,
has to remind him,
the big man
and then he's
left.
like, he double crossed us.
Yeah, a long list of people that done that to you,
Yeah,
buddy.
this is recurring. This is a recurring theme.
Yeah, seriously. That even happens with Brutus later on. I mean, come on, everybody.
Yeah, that's true.
But so following this match now, Sean Mooney interviews Sid Justice, and he was talking about how Tunney plays favorites with
Hmm.
Hogan, and so now you start thinking, okay, this feud's getting
Hey,
escalating a little bit more than the Flair one.
yeah, they did everything in the world to get heat on Sid and to make Hogan the good guy. It's like they completely went against the fans because the fans really wanted to cheer for Sid at this point.
They did.
But I guess
Sid was popular in
yeah,
WCW, and when he came over to
yeah.
WWE.
I mean, I guess it did work ultimately, but I just didn't like how they really went all out just to try to get heat on Sid just to make sure, hey, Hogan is the babyface. Hogan's the hero that everyone has to cheer for. Even though I was a Hulkamaniac at that time, I kind of like Sid. Like Sid was new, he was huge.
He
You
looked
know,
like the guy that
yeah.
would, lead us into the
Yeah. Did you
90s.
notice something? How Hogan is starting to get shrink, and even Sid to a degree. Like if you look at Sid from SummerSlam the year before, 91, how huge, and Sid was still in great shape, don't get me wrong. But you can see that once the steroid stuff is catching up to
Yep.
WWF and they're under surveillance, the guy started to,
Oh yeah, they're not seeing Zaharian anymore.
yeah.
They're being good boys now because the FBI is knocking on the door
hmm
at this point. We've said it. Compare the roster to the beginning as to the end of 1992. So, following Sid's crybaby moment, which I actually have to agree with him. I'm sorry. They interviewed Hogan and
Yeah.
Beefcake. Me and Gene did.
And you
The
know what?
typical thing.
This was actually kind of cool. Years later, when I knew the full story, what Hogan was saying, what Beefcake was saying was true, that they were close friends from the early days on. They came up through the business because they were called the Boulder Brothers, I think, back in the
Mhm.
days. Like they were a tag team. He was like his closest friend. And he was by his bedside when he got into that nasty accident that broke
Yes.
his face. Hogan was there for him. So
Yeah, a lot of
that
people
was
didn't
all
know
true.
that.
We didn't know that. We had no idea. But
No, because they never said it, and then Beefcake said that how
right.
the glimpse from the bandage he saw him
It was
there.
all legitimate. That was actually that
This is
happened.
literally this is actually the first time they actually went into detail
Right, right.
as far as what happened 2 years prior to
Yeah, yeah,
Beefcake,
yeah.
because Beefcake really wasn't back until 1991 to do the barbershop skit.
His friend to the end, like you said earlier.
Chucky.
Yeah.
So our next match was one that we really didn't need. It was Sergeant Slaughter and Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus the Beverly Brothers with the Genius at ringside.
The problem is they
Another
turned
squash
Slaughter.
match.
Well, yeah, but after that whole Iraqi sympathizer thing with Slaughter,
Mm-hmm.
you couldn't get the fans behind him. Like they turned him babyface. It didn't work.
Nope, because they were still pissed.
Yeah.
Because they did it right. I think right before Survivor Series, because
hmm
Hogan was still
He was
facing.
still facing them
I remember in
through the fall.
September.
Through
Yeah,
the
in
fall.
September at the Garden, they had a Desert Storm match.
Desert Storm match. Yeah.
And so now 2 months later, all of a sudden,
Yeah,
oh,
change
I
of
love
heart.
America again.
Doesn't work for
And
me, brother.
the fans were like,
No,
really?
no.
And Duggan just happens to be the guy. Go, oh, if you become Patriot, I'm your tag team
Okay, yeah.
partner.
Yeah, it's a waste.
And so was this match. I mean, the Duggan's 3-point stance, Slaughter gets the pin. 2.5 minute squash match makes the Beverly Brothers look bad.
See
If
ya.
you're trying to build up Duggan and Slaughter, I mean, unless you're gonna put them in a tag team title match, I don't get it, but whatever. They go on to they eventually go to was it WrestleMania 8 and have an 8-man tag team match, and that's pretty much
And nobody
Slaughter's
cared.
pretty much done after that. Oh yeah,
Okay.
they spent more time with Ray Combs doing his thing during that match than actually fighting. So, following this match now, we go on to the main event. And they do the flashback. They show you what happened on Superstars with Jake the Snake Roberts and the Macho Man Randy Savage with the Snake.
hmm
And so, and then they show you Tuesday in Texas when Jake got his hands on Elizabeth.
Yep.
And that pissed me off because
We were all angry, man.
Don't you touch my girl. Back then, that was my girl. Man. Yeah. Well, I didn't get to see Tuesday in Texas live because I got the Survivor Series. And when I asked my parents, they were like, no. So I'm on the phone with a friend of mine while he's watching it, listening to what's going on. And so Savage really didn't get all that he wanted from Jake, but tonight he would. Randy Savage versus Jake Roberts.
Yeah. Jake had the promo. Jake has his promo, which is pretty good. I think he said "Trust me" again too, right?
Oh yeah.
I love. He used to say "Trust me, man." That was good. That was great.
I love that, man.
He could get heat, man. Like I could get heat.
He was better as a heel through 91, 92.
Some of his best work, ironically, on the way out. On the way out the door, he did some of his greatest work.
Yeah, all because they wouldn't make him put him on the writers' team after WrestleMania 8. They changed their whole plan supposedly.
That's what he said, but I think it had more to do with his personal demons and stuff like that. So it was a complicated.
I really can't believe too much that Jake says in his shoot interviews.
Yeah, it's difficult to sort through the truth and what
Exactly,
but
especially when he was talking about Warrior.
Yeah, Macho Man had a really good promo too.
Yep. And
He
what's
had that
funny
belt.
is he's wearing the outfit that they put on the WrestleMania 8 thing when they showed him and Flair would now face each other.
Not only
That's
that,
the outfit that he was
yeah,
wearing.
and not only that, that's the outfit he has in his action figure.
Yep.
So and on the box, I remember I had it.
Oh yeah.
The Hasbro. For those who don't know, the Hasbro figures, they were like, those are my all-time favorite figures. I know the ones now they look more realistic and they have more
Yeah, but
articulation.
they're not as rough and tough as those.
Those are iconic, man.
I
Those
mean,
Hasbro,
we put those through the ringer,
yeah,
boy.
that was great stuff.
Oh yeah. So I mean, and this match, we weren't disappointed in this match. You
No,
know, Savage beat the crap
came
out
out
of
like a
him.
house on fire.
Yep. Jake has the whole problem. He's reenacting the Ricky Steamboat thing
Yeah.
here with the throat. I love how just like the first time Savage. Well, before I even get to the finisher, how about when Jake hits the DDT on him
Mm-hmm.
and
Didn't finish him.
he's going around and he's like, yeah,
Come
yeah, what
on.
happened to him now?
Yeah, come on. And he
And
sits
and
down in the
and Bobby
corner.
Heenan's like, you've got two more to go
Yeah,
because
because
at Tuesday in Texas he hit three of them.
right, yeah.
So he tries, he's not successful with the second one. Randy Savage gets the elbow drop, just like Tuesday in Texas. He gets the quick victory, but unlike Tuesday in Texas where he got the beat down, this time he was giving the beat down to
Yeah, he
Jake.
snaps. All the officials run into the ring, and
Yeah, I love that. Tony Garea and all of them. And right after this is when Shane McMahon started becoming one of those
well, yeah,
backstage
because
officials.
he's at WrestleMania 8.
Yeah,
Yeah.
trying to get Elizabeth
Yeah.
away from the ring. I love that. And so you got like a bunch of officials, referees. He's on the top rope. He's like, screw this. If I'm going to hit him, if I hit you guys, so be it. Jumps off, hits him with another
Yep.
elbow drop. And you would think now that it's over. And if they're still going with Hogan and Flair at WrestleMania, I do believe these two guys would have faced each other again at WrestleMania.
Yeah, you would have thought that they were still going with Hogan and Flair too, because Hogan mentioned in his promo that he's still fighting Flair.
Yeah.
He's like,
it was a week or two after this. I believe the week after the barbershop incident with Sid that Jack Tunney said that.
Oh yeah, dude, throw it on.
Yeah, this feud has to be resolved. So I'm pulling Hogan out of the main event.
The true story was Hogan was leaving, so they couldn't have him
Exactly.
in the title match. Whatever.
Everybody wants to say that they don't know the true reason why. Well, that's the reason why he was leaving, and they couldn't put the belt on.
Pretty. Yeah, that's how I look at it, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but so then Elizabeth comes down.
She's all happy, yes.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets funny. This is where it gets interesting.
Yeah, so it's starting, but the show's basically ending. Elizabeth comes out. Then they show Jake the Snake Roberts behind the curtain, and I think he says it's not over yet. He says it's not over yet, right? Or something like that. Then it goes off the air. So the following week on Superstars of Wrestling, they show that ending footage, and then they're like, they explain how this is what happened when we went off the air. So Macho Man and Elizabeth are coming backstage, and Jake has the steel chair about to hit him.
Yeah, and then I don't care, I'll hit the first one that comes through.
Yeah. And then Undertaker, out of nowhere.
Yeah, as soon as they come through, they duck. Yeah. And Taker grabs the chair.
And then he's like, what? He knocks down. I haven't seen this in years. He knocks down Jake, right? Because remember, Jake was holding his neck, right? He's fighting him with the chair.
Yeah, and then supposedly he let it go, and I think it hit him in the throat again or something.
Something happens. I forget. It's been a long time. And then you see him. He's like, and then the Taker's just like looking down on him. Awesome. I mean, it was a cool setup. I would have liked to have seen that live.
Yes.
Right. But I don't know if they did that on purpose or I don't know if they ran out of time. Because remember, this was just an hour.
Yeah, I think they probably ran out of time because think about it. All these interviews and stuff that they're having.
Yeah, and it wasn't like the original Saturday Night's Main Event.
Oh my God,
that was old. Yeah. It was longer. It was like an hour and a half.
Yeah, they would have an hour. Yeah, exactly, hour and a half.
The main event was an hour, but the Saturday Night's Main Event was like an hour and a half. So maybe that was it. I don't know. Either it worked. It's just a note for those who don't know. There was an aftermath to that.
This is the night that Taker turned babyface,
which was out of nowhere, but it worked.
You know what's funny? I just recently, last night, I was watching. I found a obscure match from 1991 around this time where it was the British Bulldog versus the Undertaker, and Lord Alfred Hayes and Sean Mooney were doing the commentary, and they even said that we've seen to see a lighter side to the Undertaker. And so it's like they were already starting it, even though he was
Yeah.
still being the heel and fighting
I mean,
the baby faces.
I'm curious when that match was and when they dub it because sometimes they film these matches, right?
Mhm.
And then they put in the commentary after the fact. So it could have been they
I think this
filmed
was one
it.
of the Coliseum
Yeah.
video things because Mooney and Lord Alfred Hayes usually
Yeah.
did the commentary for those.
But it could have been that when that match actually happened, he was a heel, but by the time they released that Coliseum home video, they dubbed it with
Yeah,
that commentary. It could be, I don't know.
it's
I'm
possible.
guessing here. But this is a good Saturday night's main event, man. Even though
Oh, it
it's a
was
switch.
really good.
Yeah, yeah. And this had long-lasting effects. This sets up WrestleMania. The matches get changed. Hogan fights Sid, and Macho Man ends up with Flair for
Flair
the
and
title.
Taker gets Roberts.
Taker gets Roberts. So
Because I think the original was supposed to be as a fanfare. I believe it was supposed to be Sid versus the Undertaker, although they never
oh,
officially announced it.
yeah, but before that, yeah, it was actually supposed to be that. That
But
was
they
but
wound up doing it on the European tour shortly before
right,
Sid
right, right,
left. But by
right.
that point, they were both flip
Yeah,
flopped.
there was a lot of like
It
shuffling
was a little
around, a
chaos.
little chaotic, but I enjoyed it. It was good.
This was a good
Yeah,
one.
yeah. All right, well, you guys let us know what you think. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys soon.
Take care.